Hi, everybody. Welcome to our episode. It's the second episode for our Fear, Anxiety, and Doubt Reel. We are sponsored by the Institute of Metaphysical Science. You can go to the website at scientificmetaphysics.org and check out the programs and what's offered and all of that. So essentially, this is part two for the episode, and what we're exploring is, does fear and anxiety stop you in your tracks or inhibit your freedom of action? Does doubt creep in and leave you paralyzed? When fear and anxiety come into view, it doesn't need to stop you or paralyze you. And so today we're going to continue that exploration of that subject. If at any point you have any questions or comments, please put them in the comments. We will get them probably in a little delay, but we'll engage with them. So go ahead and type those in. If you love this conversation, like this conversation, you can give us a heart or a thumbs up, and that would be greatly appreciated. All right. So welcome back, Betty. How are you today?
I'm fine, thanks.
Excellent. So let's dive into this whole fear, anxiety, and doubt conversation. I'm going to turn it over to you to do a little bit of a reset.
Well, we talked about it a little bit last week, and the thing that students of science know is that when they become doubtful, uncertain, have a lot of fear, afraid of whatever's going on in their daily activity, those things kind of mire you down in the language that you're trading in every day, looking like people, places, and things. If I'm standing in language, I'm sort of absent for the moment to who I am. I'm believing that this thing I see in the mirror is who I am, and I'm depending on that. And depending on that, or any dependence on what I'm looking at, seen, heard, and felt, is a booby trap. It robs me of the certainty that all being is divine, whole, complete. We live and move and have being as the reflective presence of the God idea. That's not the thing you see in the mirror. That's the being you, that allows the language picture to show up like a piece on the game board to play the game of everyday living and human experience. But who I am is the reflected presence of the God idea. And when I lose sight of that, I'm making problems for myself.
Yeah.
Is that clear? You see that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's mostly what we do. Is make problems for ourselves, and then wonder why we're making problems for ourselves, because why would we do that, right? Because when we're hooked up in the look of it all, it doesn't look like we're creating the problems. It looks like the problems are just there, showing up in our world for some unknown, unexplainable reason.
Just to get us in trouble.
Exactly. All right. So in your book, in Margaret Laird's book, We Are the World We Walk Through, on page 44, she writes, wonderful things apparently happen to the human being in the realization that his humanhood is divine. So what are those wonderful things, Mom?
Well, dominion, the experience of freedom, the experience of joy, peace, that all is well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would be hard if you realize that divinity is what makes you up, is the divine. It's hard to have fear and uncertainty inside of that.
That's right. And if I look in the mirror and think that thing is what's being divine, that thing doesn't exist the way I see it.
Mm-hmm.
What is present is the perfection that is the reflected God idea.
Right.
How I see it is just my best view of the moment.
Right.
And a view doesn't really have substance. A
Yeah.
view is just my take for the moment out of my experience. The best way I can see myself is Betty. But I know that view of Betty isn't Betty. That's just my view for the moment.
Right.
But the being of me, the presence that's divine, whole, perfect, the reflected presence of the God idea is man. And that's what constitutes my being. And in that constitution, there's nothing to fear. There's nothing to doubt. There's nothing to be uncertain about. There's all the certainty in the world of well-being, of life, of love, of joy, peace, and total freedom. No limitation in any direction that you go.
Right. Right. And in there, she goes on to say, his divinity, the God or good he is by reflection, is self-acting, self-directing, self-governing, and the reason for everything he does.
That's right. When I live and move and have being, consciously aware that the God idea in action constitutes what I call Betty, then there's nothing to be concerned about.
Right.
All is well. When I live myself as if the thing I see in the mirror is running the show, I'm growing problems for myself, like wake-up calls saying, wait a minute, Betty, wake up.
Yeah.
You're standing in the belief of yourself instead of the fact of yourself.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. And when we stand in the belief of ourselves rather than the fact of ourselves, that's when fear, anxiety, and doubt come in. That's when they creep in, when we have no idea who we are.
Or when we have a misguided view of who we are.
Okay.
A belief about ourselves instead of a fact.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're not in touch with reality at that time.
Right. Right. Yeah. There's just all you are is a victim of the circumstances surrounding you.
That's right. Beliefs live in victimization.
Okay.
Facts live in reality.
Right.
Freedom, joy. Yep.
Okay. And on page 51 of We Are the World We Walk Through, Mrs. Laird says, every object of sense is reality, experienced subjectively as inspiration. Your senses are not outside of you, but the awareness or soul that is you.
Yep. You know, Mrs. Eddy makes it very clear that all the senses, we think we see, hear, feel, taste, touch, all of that. The belief that that's in the human picture is just the best view we've got of what it is to have a sense of anything. My self-sense, if it's accurate, is divine. So she says soul, which is a synonym for the God idea, is the sensorium of being. So all vision, all what I see humanly as emotional feeling, all rationalizing that I base on what I think is what I heard, what I felt, what I touched, all of that doesn't originate in the two-legged thing I'm looking at in the mirror.
Right.
It's just a best view I've got of my soul presence. But it's the God idea, soul, that's presencing all the time, whole, perfect, complete, without any hindrance, without any fault, perfect. and living it that way, my human experience of those senses is without a problem.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, very good. And again, if anyone has any comments, any questions, anything, just type those into your comments field and send them over. That we will get them and we will be able to engage with them. So very good. Okay. So on we go. On page 52, We Are the World We Walk Through, Mrs. Laird says, as our divinity makes us more aware, the me that reacts with defiance and resentment apparently gives way to the me that is spirit. So I notice in this sentence that me, within quotes, that reacts with defiance is little m. That reacts with defiance and resentment apparently gives way to the me, capital M, that is spirit. Say more about that.
Well, I've finished the sentence, because when it gives way to me that is spirit, this in turn affects our health, wealth, happiness.
Right.
And if it doesn't give way, what I have in my human experience, based on what I'm observing around me as if it were out there somewhere and I was being affected by those things, that would give me sin, disease, and death. Mrs.
Right.
Eddy's description
and leave me defiant and resentful.
Yeah. And full of problems.
Yeah.
And unhappy.
Right.
Yeah. All that. Sure.
Okay. So the whole sentence, just to be clear, is as our divinity makes us more aware, the me that reacts with defiance and resentment apparently gives way to the me that is spirit. And this in turn affects our wealth, health, and happiness.
Yep.
So it's as our divinity makes us more aware. So talk a little bit more about as our divinity makes us more aware. It's not like we've got to go fuss with the picture. It's that we just need to get clear about who we are, what you sometimes say, the facts of being.
Yeah. Yeah. I want, anytime that uncertainty, doubt, fear, anxiety, concern, upset, anytime any of that shows up in my behavior, it's like a red flag saying, Betty, wake up. You're playing around with a language which is simply your point of view on something. And you need to be in touch with the facts, what's actually present.
Yeah. So a good question to ask when you're really mired in a particular upset or you've got some fear and anxiety in there is, are you willing to give up your belief?
Yep.
Are you willing to give up your point of view, your judgment about whatever is going on?
Yep. Quite often, we're going to talk more about this fear thing, but it's not a negligible item.
Mm-hmm.
Things occur, and mostly they are a challenge to who are you being,
Mm-hmm.
who are you consciously being. But as they occur, they can be very upsetting, very frightening. I think about sometimes this belief that I have another over there who can be hurt, or who can be in danger, or who can be sick, and so on. We've had a whole year of this concern over the so-called pandemic facing the world.
Right.
And so it has brought front and center the everyday, every moment, moment by moment by moment, concern over well-being, our well-being, the well-being of those we love, the well-being of the neighbors, the well-being of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And we hear all these statistics, and it's a challenge to keep yourself aware that that language picture is a wake-up call saying, who are you being? Where are you standing? What's actually going on here?
Mm-hmm.
What's actually going on has to be the God idea. because the point of view has no capacity to cause anything. It looks like it does. And if you believe it, then you're stuck with it. But if you can stay willing to explore the facts of being, all is infinite mind, the God idea, infinitely manifest. That's what's manifest.
Right.
And to me, it's just a point of view.
Well, it seems to me that we've also got a willingness to embrace our world as it shows up. So if our world is showing up saying, wear a mask, and we're like, I'm not wearing a mask, that's not real. That's a point of view standing in language.
Yep. And it's a point of view that's inaccurate. It's a fiction. And your resistance to it does what?
Holds it in place.
That's right. So you're living with that limitation, that fear, that self-righteousness, and it blinds you to the divine presence that has you occur in the first place.
Right. Because if you're clear about who you are and the divinity that you are, there is nothing in the picture that could show up that wouldn't be for your good.
That's right.
So if you're saying wear a mask, you wear a mask. If they say get a vaccine, go get a vaccine. I mean, and anything that you hold on to about that is all your judgment about the picture and the circumstances. Is that accurate?
More or less.
I mean, I know it'll screw up. It'll fuss with a bunch of Christian scientists that are like, medication is bad, and don't take any pills. I get that, but I'm really looking at from the science viewpoint. It doesn't matter in the human language picture. What shows up is the best view you've got of the one reality present.
Yeah, and sometimes you will walk along with what you see to do. Other times you may not. But either way, you'll be fine if you're staying in touch with the facts.
Right.
You may never need the vaccine. You may never need any of those things. It seems to me when you're hungry, you eat dinner or breakfast or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
When you're living as a human being, you do what the highest right is under the circumstances. And sometimes that looks like taking care of your neighbor. Sometimes that looks like respecting their point of view.
Yeah.
Which is okay. And if you do that as divine being, the best way you see it, and you have no concern over the appearance for it, you won't make waves. You'll do whatever contributes to well-being, and on you go.
Yeah.
But nothing in the language picture assures you of well-being. The language picture shows up evidence that you're living yourself divinely and you're present right now. And this is what it looks like.
Right. So there's one point that came up for me right in that saying is like it's like the language picture shows up evident of the being present. Is that what you said? Something like that.
That is your view of the being present.
Your view of the being present. Well, the thing that I think is interesting is that what shows up is always in the past then.
That's right. You're looking at yesterday.
Right.
Language
so if it
always in the past.
Yeah. So if language is always in the past, present would be
whole, complete, perfect.
Because it's right now, right now, right now, right now, right now. Yep. And so anytime you take thought about, anytime you take enough time to have a belief about, you're in the past.
Or the truth about.
Or the truth about, any about.
Any about has more than one thing going on.
Correct. And the rest it would look like spontaneous living. It would be like in the moment. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, just look at a smile. Do you smile, or are you about smiling?
No, I'm thinking, should I smile?
Yeah. Well, notice there's no smile as I go through that.
Right. I'm just saying that, but it's that spontaneity of living, that intuitive living, that right now quality.
Yep.
That has freedom be boundless.
That's right. And it takes a discipline to live freely. We are so sure that what we see is out there, like there's more than one thing going on.
Mm-hmm.
And that that belief system is like 24/7 right in front of your nose.
Yeah.
So it takes a bit to remind yourself as often as you need to. All is well. There's one thing going on. It's all God being everywhere, all the time.
Right.
And this is the way I see it. This is the best view I've got at the moment. But the reality of the perfection present is always there. Without that, there would be no belief. You can't have a belief about nothing.
Right.
So there's reality present, even though I know from living with this science for so many years that it isn't the way it looks. But that doesn't negate the perfection present. That doesn't negate the allness present.
Correct.
The oneness present, the wholeness present, the joy, the freedom, the power.
Right.
It's always what's present. The view is just a view. And when I'm willing to let the view alone, the hell with it, it's not even real anyway, amazing things happen.
Yeah.
Freedom occurs. I find I'm not shackled with all that belief stuff, but the problems that go with it.
Yeah.
It just goes its way.
Yes.
And Margaret used to say, I don't know why it looks that way. The hell with it.
Right.
She said that many times.
Yeah.
Because she knew that the facts were always present or there wouldn't be any belief. And the only thing you have there to police yourself about is, am I believing in that picture? Or am I living the fact that all is well? That all is infinite mind, infinitely manifest. And this is the way it looks to me right now.
Right.
And right now, and right now, and right now.
Every moment, every moment.
That's right.
Right. So we've got a quote from a book called The Angel's Game, written by Carlos Ruiz Zafran. And here's what that quote is. And it'll take a little bit to get through this. So here we go.
Well, the reason for the quote, by the way.
Okay.
I was reading the novel, I found this quote, and I realized that an enormous amount of the time we live under the belief that we have fear. And so he describes it beautifully. I've never seen it better written. Go ahead.
All right, so here we go. Nothing makes us believe more than fear, the certainty of being threatened. When we feel like victims, all our actions and beliefs are legitimized, however questionable they may be. Our opponents stop sharing, become our enemies. We stop being aggressors and become defenders. The envy, greed, or resentment that motivates us becomes sanctified because we tell ourselves we're acting in self-defense. Evil, menace, those are always the preserve of the other. The first step for believing passionately is fear. Fear of losing our identity, our life, our status, or our beliefs. Fear is the gunpowder and hatred is the fuse. Dogma, the final ingredient, is only a lighted match.
Isn't that a fun statement?
Yeah.
Yeah. He just points it out.
Yeah. So when he goes back,
what the lighted match is.
Yeah.
It's our belief. Dogma.
Yeah. Dogma, the final ingredient. So that's our belief, our judgments,
Yep.
our opinions,
and our unwillingness to see it differently. Our determination to live in terms of what we're looking at in the human picture rather than the facts.
Right.
That's the lighted match.
Yeah.
That's the thing that burns.
Yep. And this other piece here, we back up one. The first step for believing passionately is fear. Say a little bit more about that.
Yeah. Well, we are very attached to the world that we've built around ourselves with belief, the way it looks, very attached to myself as an individual, as a human being, very attached to my point of view, which I justify and feel right about. You know, self-justification is what did she call it? The adamant of error.
Yeah.
Self-love, self-justification. Yeah.
Right.
So fear of losing that is like, I'm losing who I am.
Yeah.
Because I think that's who I am. And that's a real, you know, just think about that. It's not easy to not be the two-legged thing that you're so comfortable with.
Right.
I mean, you know, it's all smart and it's got things figured out, and give all that up. Who
Right.
would I be then? I
Right.
wouldn't be anybody.
Right.
I'm very attached to that. Yeah. So that's the bedrock, if you can call it that, of this fear that seems to dominate human living.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good. So then Mary Baker Eddy in Science and Health says, destroy fear and you end fever.
Yep. The thing that has the two-legged animal look sick is gone when you've destroyed fear.
Right. And
It
to
has
fear,
no basis.
yeah, and to fear and admit the power of disease is to paralyze mental and scientific demonstration.
Yep.
So if you destroy fear, you end fever, you literally end disease.
That's right.
Huh. That's kind of a powerful thing to think about.
Yes, it is.
And she also said,
you know, that's one of the things. There are a lot of examples, but I remember Mrs. Laird talking about Dr. Dorsey. He was a Wayne State University, head of the psychiatry department and so on. Anyway, he would work with children. And the first thing he said when a little kid came in screaming and hollering is, everything's all right, dear. Everything's all right. You're fine. Everything's going to be just fine. Take a deep breath, you know. But what he was doing was removing the fear that had paralyzed this little kid screaming.
right. Yeah.
You're all right. Everything's all right.
Yeah.
And you could see it make a difference in the way the child responded very soon.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing's true with myself. You know, if something came along that was just awful, that kind of stopped me in my tracks, what I want to do is say, well, what's going on here, Betty? Is everything divine love present?
Mm-hmm.
Self-manifesting, self-directing, self-responsible, et cetera,
Yeah.
is what's going on? If it is, then I have nothing to be concerned about.
Right.
And gradually, you see, you begin to reduce your own sense of alarm, your own sense of fear. And
Right.
that's what you want to do, because you can't be yourself if you're chained to an emotion called fear,
Mm-hmm.
a belief about something powerful outside of my own being.
Right.
Yeah.
So then in Science and Health, Mary Baker Eddy also says, the divine mind creates all identities, and they are forms of mind, the ideas of spirit, apparent only as mind.
Yep.
Understanding is the line of demarcation between the real and the unreal. Understanding is the reality of all things brought to light.
Yep. And then she gives a definition of fear in the glossary of Science and Health.
Yes. And she calls it heat, inflammation, anxiety, ignorance, error, desire, caution.
That's right. All of those.
Mm-hmm.
When they come up in human living, you know, somebody comes along and tells me some terrible thing. The minute the alarm bell rings, that very instant is when I say, wait a minute. And I just let the picture alone. As much as I can, I leave it alone, because any resistance to the picture has it persist. So I want to leave it alone, and I want to start clearly acknowledging the facts of being. All is infinite mind infinitely manifest. And this is the way I see it.
Yeah.
But the fact is stated clearly. And I find myself calming down, letting go of all that concern. And then I go ahead with another acknowledgement of fact, whatever I can think of. I remember that there was an example given in something I was reading quite a long time ago. And they said, if you can be in touch with any fact at all, it'll help remove the threat that you're facing.
Mm-hmm.
And this little kid had heard that, and this terrible thing came up for him. It was scaring everybody around him. And he sat there and he thought, 2 and 2 is 4. 2 and 2 is 4. 2 and 2 is 4. And that fact kept him grounded. And
Right.
he walked right through beautifully.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
So
want to have the ability or the capacity to acknowledge a fact of being, a fact of reality, and just acknowledging it. You know, the reason that it's helpful is that which acknowledges facts is not the human being. That's just the way it looks. But the only thing that can acknowledge God is God.
mm-hmm.
As Thomas Merton said that, I don't know, some philosophers have said that many times, but human beings are not capable of acknowledging facts. So the acknowledgement of facts is divine presence.
Interesting. Okay. And then here it is in Science and Health. Mary Baker says, when fear disappears, the foundation of disease is gone.
Good.
That's just says it what we've already said, right? But there it is. And then let neither fear nor doubt overshadow your clear sense and calm trust that the recognition of life harmonious as life eternally is can destroy any painful sense of or belief in that which life is not.
Yep.
So anything else you want to say about fear, anxiety, and doubt?
I want to say goodbye.
Goodbye to fear, anxiety, and doubt. That's what we've got. So this is the end of our episode. And again, you can go out to scientificmetaphysics.org. There is a live teleseminar starting soon in April that will be excellent. If you're interested in that, go out to the website and you can find out more about that. And otherwise, we will see you next week. Same time, same channel.
Thank you.